Okay, welcome to another Awake Facebook pre-recording. I'm so happy tonight because our topic tonight is to discuss what happened last year at the FDA meeting. And I'm happy we have a full panel here that actually were present last year. So as always, Justine Amdur is my right hand. Welcome, Justine.
Hello.
I also have Joelle Dobrow. Yeah, is that how you pronounce it? Hi, Joelle. Peter Stein.
Yep.
Hello.
And Paul Zuccarini. I hope I pronounced that right as well.
Yeah, you did.
And Celeste, I can't see, but she's on the line.
Listening.
You may have to leave a little bit early. But again, our topic tonight is basically discussing about, what's happened since last year's FDA meeting, what your journey has been like, and what the last year has brought and taught you. And I'll hand it over to you, Justine.
Thank you. I just want to remind everybody that's watching that last June in 2018, we had 10 patient panelists discuss their patient journey to both divisions of the FDA, both the device side that handles all types of CPAP machines, equipment, accessories, and all of those types of things, as well as the pharmaceutical side of the FDA. It was the first time that those two divisions have actually been together in the room hearing the patient's story and journey. And so we have these four individuals with us today. They gave their patient story last June, talked about their diagnosis and how they got to their treatment and any issues and problems that they were having. So we're going to take this opportunity to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of this meeting and circle back with them. So let's go ahead and start talking with Celeste here. Go ahead, Kevin. Do you have any questions or want to?
No, again, when I recapped, doing some research for tonight's program, I, was very touched and impressed. I unfortunately didn't make the meeting last year, but I think it's wonderful when people openly and honestly share their journey and their stories. Some things resonated. Joelle was saying earlier on about, or when I watched her video, about peer-to-peer support, and that's what we're all about here, and we love that because we can learn from each other. Okay, we're not all experts in the field, even though we live and breathe it, for the quote of a better word. But I think it's really valuable to help share experiences, and that's what we're doing. So Celeste, I know you're time sensitive, and I will start with you if you'd like to introduce yourself and just tell us a little about where you're from and what your journey looked like.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome again to this fantastic forum. And I just thank the Amdurs, and I thank you, sir, for giving the world your time. It's so important that we talk about this really important issue. Last year, when I came and I had the opportunity to hear all these fantastic stories, it really validated some of the things that I was going through. And, in terms of feeling tired all of the time and not understanding that I may have been getting some sleep, but I wasn't getting good and helpful and restful, restorative sleep because I had sleep apnea, which I had never heard of prior to being tested. And once I was tested, once I started to go through the testing process with oh my goodness, I forget the name of the teaching hospital here, but going through the testing, I was diagnosed with sleep apnea, and I was instructed on the fact that I was going to need a CPAP machine, and so that I could ensure getting enough air throughout the night, and so that I was getting the restorative sleep that I needed, and so that my brain was getting the oxygen that it needed to function properly. It had never occurred to me that this might be happening to me because I always seemed to be functioning the way any normal person should be functioning, except, of course, that I was tired all the time, which I'm sure that all the panelists and then you all can understand. In the last year, because I do use my machine on a regular basis. I got to tell you, I had asked my own physician if we could do a follow-up, because part of my understanding about the disease is that when you gain weight, you gain 5 or 10 pounds, or you lose 5 or 10 pounds, your machine may function differently with you. And so I've gained weight. I'm retired. I've put on a few happy pounds. And so I'm happy and fat now, and I need an adjustment, I'm sure. But because it seems like the medical establishment still does not take the situation seriously. There just aren't enough places to do the type of follow-up that I need. You know, you have to do the overnight study again or something, I'm sure. Yeah. But I haven't been able to get in to get a reevaluation. And my machine to me is precious. I'll just tell you this too real quick. I went on a trip at the end of last year. I was going a short distance. I was going to visit a friend of mine in Chicago. I normally carry a small carry-on bag, which is too small for a change of clothing, which you should always have with you, and my machine, which is going to be in my one bigger bag. And it freaked me out when they lost my bag. I absolutely lost my mind. 4 days, there was no word as to what happened to my bag. Oh no is right. Because of course I'm thinking, I don't have my machine. There is no way that my HMO is going to replace this machine. What in the world am I going to do? Well, what that resulted in is this became my response. When I go away, I don't take my machine. I am so afraid I'm going to lose it that when I go away, I don't take my machine, which is a problem in itself.
Well, sorry, Celeste, but let me ask you this, because you can take your machine on when I travel. I don't check it in. I take it on in the cabin. Is that what you did?
No, I normally do, but my carry-on bag wasn't big enough for the my other things and my machine. You may have a small machine. I don't have a granddaddy, but I've got it takes up the space that I have in the bag, in my little carry-on bag.
Yeah, but correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry again, Celeste, to jump in there. But, you know, I think I don't want to go off topic too much, but for me, I can have an allowance of a carry-on bag, and then my medical equipment, which is what my CPAP is registered as, is extra. It's not extra. It's like, you know, you can bring it on as an extra item. So I
didn't know that.
In the cabin. Yeah, and I think it's worth, I think out there maybe we'll check on that, but I think for people maybe that would get into a similar situation, it's worth finding out, but I'm nearly sure that's
absolutely. Yes. Oh my God.
Yes, if I could, this is an important thing. Well, you know, part of the patient journey is taking that CPAP machine with you everywhere that you go. You know, you're supposed to use it when you nap, supposed to take it on vacation. And I believe that my family even was able to get from one of the online resuppliers a little tag that says, you know, this is a medical device. I mean, maybe it was $3 or $5 or something, you know, and I looped it around the machine. So I have my rolly, I have my purse, since I'm, you know, I do purse often. And then I have that third piece, which is my CPAP machine. And so I, you know, either put it up above usually, or if I have to, I can slide it underneath there. I usually don't like to put it on the floor, but I do. And, you know, I do want you to take it with you when you go on vacation. I think all of us.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And let everybody else know that they should take it with them. They should, and they can. And there's no reason why you have to worry about packing it in your luggage and dealing with that situation that you had that made you really nervous.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So sorry that happened to you, Celeste. You know, because it's a valuable piece of equipment and it is a medical device and you need it, you know. So note to self and everybody else out there who's listening in. But, you know, I wanted to go back to when I heard your story as well. This is something that I wasn't too familiar with. I know that initially you were monitored remotely for adherence to your therapy. And I gather that was a little bit tenuous for you because the pressure wasn't really regulated and felt like it was too high. Can you just discuss a little bit more about that and how you got to a pressure that was right and suitable for you so that you could wear your mask throughout the night?
Well, when I was, I'm not sure what the term is. When I was diagnosed, when I had done the overnight sleep study, and they had attached the nodes to me, and they were monitoring me overnight, I was told that I was given one number as my correct number for the pressure, the air pressure. But when I got the unit at home, it was a higher air pressure, and it was it didn't seem to the people that were assisting me that the pressure made a great deal of difference. And it didn't seem as if, even though I complained, it didn't make a great deal of difference to how they responded to me, even though I let them know this is too much. There is so much air coming at me. It is actually gagging me. I can't breathe at all. It's more unpleasant to try to use the machine than to not use it at all. And they made it plain. If you don't wear the machine, and we can tell if you're wearing it or not, if you don't wear the machine, we're going to take it from you. And so I was forced to wear this thing that had me choking all night long. So for that entire period of time, I was getting less sleep than I was prior to having the machine.
Wow, sorry that happened to you. And what steps did you take then? Was there any support during that time to try and figure out a pressure that was more conducive to your adherence?
No, as a matter of fact, there wasn't. I kept calling back to the doctor's office who had made the original prescription, but I couldn't actually get her on the phone. I kept getting her staff on the phone, but by the time the pressure was corrected, it became clear that the staff wasn't giving her the information.
Sure. Well, before I let you go, how are you doing now with your adherence, and are you using your mask every night and machine?
I am. I would like to try a different one. I have the one that goes over the nose and the mouth, and I think I might like to try the one that just goes in the nose, maybe, but I don't know how to do that because, like I said, I'm not getting a whole lot of more support here. I'm just, using the unit that I have, and it doesn't seem as if I need anything else, I'm getting a whole lot of support with that. So I'm just wearing my unit, cleaning my unit, and going to sleep, But you should be able to, upgrade or ask a question or get some new information once in a while, because I really kind of feel stuck right here.
Sure. And so a year on past the FDA meeting, have any lessons that have been learned or any advice you would give to people?
Yes. Don't give up. Don't give up. You and your health and your family and your life are worth every bit of time that you give. It really, for some situations, and this is one of them, you really do have to be the creaky wheel, because the creaky wheel gets the grease. You're going to have to make some noise if you're going to be placed in a position where change is going to happen. And at this point in our development, as a group of people who live with the same situation, we are making it better for one another, and we're making it better for people that come behind us. And I continue to tell all of your stories, because each of your stories has a value. And, it's not just mine, because my situation is unlike anyone else's I know, like each of you, but all of your stories are important.
I think that's wonderful advice, Celeste. And it does show people out there who are struggling initially to become more used to the therapy that you surely have persevered. And it sounds like you're getting better results. So again, when, we share stories with other people, people identify with it and help them out. It's great. Good. So,
well, I always do thank the Amdurs for everything, for constantly following up. I do. I love them. I think they're wonderful people, and they are helpful in ways that they will never know. Generations will sing their praise.
Thank you so much. We love them too, Celeste. Thank you so much. Paul, I was going to go to you because I was quite intrigued by your story as well. And, you know, we always like to get across section of different people here. You know, people struggle with weight, people struggle with, you know, facial structures that maybe, you know, make them more prone to OSA. You know, you're out there, you're an athlete, you were healthy. I was just curious when I watched your video when we talked about diagnosis. I think it was back in 2013 when you were diagnosed. And can you just tell me about the journey that led to that?
We're good here. You're talking to me?
To Paul, yeah.
It's not giving me enough volume, so I've got the computer in the background giving me sound. Are you able to hear me?
I can hear you fine, yes.
Okay, great. So go ahead and ask me the question again, please, sir.
No, I was very curious because you know, when I looked at your video, it looks like you were diagnosed back in 2013.
Yes.
Being a triathlete, you know, I was curious to feel that, you know, how did you get to that diagnosis? And what has changed since the last year at the FDA meeting?
Okay, well, that diagnosis, I guess, was recorded back last year in DC. Essentially, I had a girlfriend at the time that told me that I wasn't breathing, and I believed her, so I went to get a sleep study, and they came up with some number, 56 episodes a minute, or an hour, I guess. So I started using the CPAP machine, and going fast forward to now, clearly I do bring the CPAP machine on the plane because it's definitely allowed. They know what it is. So I have no problem with that for me personally. But I will say this, that I've chosen, and I probably should have spent more time doing, I probably was up in DC at about the low 250 pounds at 6'4". That's way too heavy for me. And even now I'm too heavy, but I'm just under 240. I'm going to probably this is me personally, I seem to have the ability to do it. It's taking time, but I'm going to probably maybe slip under 230, and that's helping my sleep immensely. So, and I do clearly use the CPAP machine all the time. I think I have the ability to adjust the pressure myself. I don't remember what I have it set at now, 14 or 15. But it seems by the end of the night, it is blowing the mask off my face. I have a Quattro Pro, so maybe I need to reduce it a bit. But I'm sleeping as well as I've slept in a long time these days.
Yeah, and you know, Paul, I think it gives people hope as well, because I gather that you felt better and adjusted to your therapy quite quickly. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot going on, as we all do, with, you know, coming off a divorce and so forth. All that stuff impacts your time, and now that stuff is behind me, and I think Celeste was saying never give up. I certainly never thought that, but you know, you got to live, and it's sort of a pain. I go camping. I take my little portable battery and with an inverter to go camping because I have a young son, and it all works fine. It's frustrating. I have to use the machine, but if I do, I do, and I'm used to it.
Great.
Paul, I'm sorry. I was just wondering, you know, with you having such an athletic background, there's over the course of time from the meeting last year to now, I've noticed several things reported on sports. There was a young 23-ish baseball pitcher that, you know, was talking about his sleep apnea. Wow. A lot of sports teams are kind of dialing into it a little bit more. I was just coming back from a family vacation, and if this young gentleman didn't play football, I would have been very surprised. And he had he had his ResMed bag with him, you know, with his CPAP machine. And so I was just curious if you, you know, with you being in the, you know, athletic arena, have you been hearing more talk about it? Have you been seeing people treating it more? Have you been hearing about their performance with their sleep?
Well, I'll say this, Justine, that you know, I never would have thought anything about this, I guess, affliction years ago. I just said, oh, I was snoring. But now when I have it, I have friends calling me, getting advice. And I will say, unfortunately, the friends, you know, I'm 56 now, and so I'm still very functional for someone who's 56. I'm not 26, and so my physical capacity is less, but I'm still pretty active. But unfortunately, the friends I have that are similar to me, we all have an athletic background, and the one thing besides being athletic that we have in common is we are dramatically, all of us, heavier than we were. And that happens to many people. Man, I'm looking at you. I don't see you a lot. You still look very fit yourself. I'm trying to get more so now. At least in my case, I find that coming back to maybe a historical weight is for sure impacting me, because now I can lie down on occasion without the CPAP machine. I don't snore instantaneously, which I once did. So for sure, for me personally, I can't say this for everyone, recent weight loss within the last 3 months based on, you know, diet and increased exercise has diminished my snoring, which I guess if I would make a simple analogy, has diminished my apnea episodes also. So in general, for me, I feel better just from reducing my weight.
Perfect, Paul. Yeah, and I mean, we do hear stories about that as well when people lose weight. And when you think about it, when you're lying down, you know, the contents of your stomach, and if it's heavy, is pressing in your diaphragm, and you're not getting that good oxygen and air into your lungs because it's just all compressed. So certainly, you know, I struggle sometimes, especially in the winter, where, you know, you eat a little bit more and then all of a sudden you develop a little belly, and you know, we notice a difference definitely with our sleep. So that's a great. So
Kevin, if I may, you face sleep apnea yourself. I don't know, you're the moderator, or you actually face sleep apnea yourself?
Oh no, I do. Yeah, I've had my machine now for about 4 or 5 years. Yeah, okay. Adam Amdur actually convinced me to go and get a sleep study.
But from here you look pretty slender. So that's a sign that it's not only being overweight that impacts you, because you don't look very heavy.
Sure. And again, like I said earlier, I think that's why we always like a real cross section in our community, so people can relate to people. Because, right, you know, one thing earlier as well, when I look at, you know, looking back at the FDA meeting, it's nice to think, and I think I was maybe thinking of Peter's story, where, and I'll come to you shortly, Peter, but a lot of people go through multiple tests, multiple exams to figure out what is wrong. But we really need to try and impact our healthcare providers and dentists to make this at the forefront of their mind. You know, and that's another thing our community can do is make it like for the physicians out there to say, maybe this is a sleep study that's needed for this person, and not go through everything else to get to that end point. Joelle, I would like to come to you because I was quite intrigued by your story as well. Contrary to Paul's, you had such a long journey. And again, like Celeste, I admire you for sticking with it. It sounds like you're a very organized, detailed person and didn't give up. So I think it's great advice for you to share your story for some people out there that may be struggling and think, oh, I'm just going to give up. This isn't working for me. So can you share a little about your journey?
Okay, well, I think I should explain that the first thing about me is that I presented atypically. I was already skinny, and I was female, and I was physically active, and none of the symptoms that I had triggered any suspicions among doctors that it could be sleep apnea. So I was sent on this 25-plus year journey up to every kind of definition of doctor that you could have, with multiple diagnoses and all kinds of different medications. And it was just terrible. Endocrinologists, gynecologists, psychologists, neurologists, on and on and on and on and on. And of course, none of them addressed the problem. And for me, in my case, it was insomnia. I wasn't sleeping at all, even though I was working very hard and so forth. And then finally, I got a diagnosis almost by accident. It was with an HMO, which I had never been in before. And I guess they just didn't know what to do with me. And I had always had much better healthcare insurance prior to the HMO. They sent me home with an overnight study. It turned out to sleep apnea, and that changed my life. That was back in 2006. And I've been compliant ever since. I would like to say there's lots of challenges, that a study isn't the only thing that needs to be done, because there's a lot of fine tuning involved. In addition to achieving a study, it's not just the right pressure and the right mask. It's also the other part of your health profile and whatever else might be contributing to your overall well-being. It all needs to be worked at together. So I would encourage everyone not to just assume that now that you have a CPAP machine, everything will go fine, because I was in a tough time during the session last year. Do you recall what I was talking about? I don't remember if you know.
Sorry, can you just expand on that again?
At the time of the June meeting, I was within an 8-long-month cycle of insomnia. I was needing to be retested on for my overnight study, and I had gone in for 2 tests, and they both failed because I didn't sleep at all. And that was part of the insomnia cycle, and they didn't know what to do with me. It became a real headache. Now, 1 year later, we kind of know what it was. And that was that I had lost 40 pounds between my study 5 years before and last year. And the settings may have been wrong or whatever. And I had to do something to interrupt the insomnia, which I successfully did. We found the right combination, not a medication. Thank God. I live in California, so I was able to subscribe to a medical marijuana card for that, and got a tincture of CBD and THC, tiny amount of THC, lots of CBD, but it broke the cycle, which is what really needed to be done. It broke the cycle. Since then, I've got off of it, and I found herbs and minerals, magnesium, that make the difference in terms of my sleep. So my sleep is better than it ever has been. This last year, I also got, Medicare allowed me to have a new CPAP machine. Yay, yay, yay. You get a new CPAP machine every 5 years with Medicare. At 4 years and 4 months, my old machine started failing and not working properly, and it was like nursing it through that last 8 months. So I got a new machine, new masks. I'm really happy with my durable medical equipment provider. I'm very happy with my doctor, my pulmonary specialist who specializes in sleep apnea, and the combination of all of it, I feel younger, healthier, more robust, stronger, dynamic than I did 10, 12, 15 years ago. I really feel I've had a lot of success.
Good. And I mean, it's been a journey, and again, I think it's very valuable to people out there hearing your story and knowing how well you stuck with it, because you knew there was going to be a good end result for you, and I'm happy to hear that there is.
But may I make a comment? I think was it Paul that said he gained weight and was having trouble, and I lost too much weight and is having trouble. And I think what we need to learn is the patients need to be their own best evaluators, and keep the data that you give to your doctor cluster, because I have more than one, that may be helpful. You know, and I honestly say, I don't know if this means anything, but I'm going to tell you it because it might, and just fill in all the information possible. You never know what part of the elements influence the rest.
Sure, and it's a great point.
I'm happy to hear, Joelle, that you're feeling so much better. I remember, your story vividly at the FDA meeting, and you struggling with several waking up at night and still with the insomnia. So I'm happy to hear that you've pressed on and been working with your providers and figured out the missing pieces that you needed. That's great to hear. Insomnia is something that is extremely common with our community. It's kind of a little bit of the chicken and the egg. I don't know what's first. Right. I don't know what's making it worse. I don't know what to do. And yeah, Yeah, so I'm happy to hear that you've been able to work with your doctors and figure that out.
Ken, I do want to make one comment, though. I would like to be able to get acknowledgement for the healthcare providers who aren't medical doctors, you know, because they really do provide a lot. My alternative healthcare people, my chiropractors, my nutritionists and everything. It's really a team effort, and I don't want to leave the others behind. And my durable medical equipment team, because I'm very lucky where I live. There is a company I work with that just does sleep apnea equipment, nothing else. And that area of expertise makes a tremendous difference in the quality of service I get. So I'd like to think of it as a team effort, and I hope everybody has the opportunity to put a team together for yourself.
No, and I think that's great, Joelle, because, you know, we really feel that this is a multifaceted approach. And it's not just receiving a machine and a mask and putting it on and hoping for the best.
Right.
We regard this as adjunct therapy, you know, exercise, lose weight, good sleep environment, nutrition, all the above to help you get a better, you know, night's sleep and be more, you know, inclined to have a better environment so that you will sleep. So it's great that you're acknowledging everybody else that's involved and with you.
I forgot to mention I had to add another medical doctor into my team, and that was an allergist. And I did that because of the wonderful session that we had in Washington where I can't remember the physician's name. Do you remember this, Justine, the physician's name? The woman who was both an allergist and an allergist, and she had two disciplines.
Shelley Birdson, Dr. Shelley Birdson. Yeah. She's in New Jersey. Yeah. Yes, she was our speaker there.
She inspired me. Because of her, I went to a local allergist and I got other issues taken care of. So I was able to reduce the congestion I had from allergies that were also interfering with the sleep. It was like, you know, a total effort. So Thank you, Shelley.
Good. Happy you're doing well, Joelle. Peter, we're finally getting to you. You know, I do want to acknowledge the fact, Peter, I was quite impressed by the fact of your open and honest account and testament to, you know, I feel maybe I was a little bit guilty of this, thinking there's so many comorbidities now that are associated with sleep apnea that are coming to the forefront. Yeah. You know, like atrial fibrillation, hypertension, diabetes, heart failure. But I was really impressed by the correlation that you made regarding your own mental health struggles when you were suffering through that period of time. So I really admire you for bringing that to the forefront and think that we should be discussing this a little bit more often. Can you just tell me a little bit about your journey and how you got to this point?
Well, as I said a year ago, you know, I had a period of time where I was under a tremendous amount of stress with work. It really wasn't bad stress. I was just extremely busy. But the result was that I was stopping sleeping, and I was becoming incredibly sleep deprived. And you know, sleep deprivation will cause you to go crazy. And I got to admit that I went crazy. And it took a long time. It created a havoc in my life with the way everybody reacted and the way everybody got scared around me and reacted, and it became a real mess, to tell you the truth. And it really didn't, you know, everybody was taking me to the doctors, between the mental health professionals and the actual health professionals, trying, you know, the medical doctors trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And it wasn't until, you know, months later that I fell asleep behind the wheel at 12:30 in the afternoon and crashed. And that made everybody go, maybe he needs to get a sleep study, you know, and take in, you know, sort of an emergency trip to the sleep doctor. And that's when they found out that I had sleep apnea. And I had been on the machine ever since. This is now going on 2 years. It'll be 2 years soon since I started the machine. And I don't travel without it. I don't go anywhere without it. I was on a boat in the Caribbean for a week and I had it. And, you know, it is whatever, it's part of the journey, you know. You now have this attachment to you. But, you know, I really noticed the difference. I'm a scientist engineer, and I sort of take the data myself, and one's good and one bad. If I'm on that machine for less than about 3 hours a night, I can sleep, okay without it, and especially if I'm on the lighter side of my weight. But if I go less than about 3 hours on that machine in a night, I feel crappy the next day. And the more I'm on it, if I get to that 5-6 hours that I've been on it to that night, I feel wonderful. And I cannot explain what happened to me without sleep apnea as a part of it. I can't explain it any other way based on where I was and what I'm doing now. I'm doing great. Everything's going well. Healthy, My wife says that, no signs of what happened before are happening. So how else do you explain it by that? And now the masks are a pain in the butt. People, you see people and you see the comorbidities. The first thing that comes to my mind is, does this person have sleep apnea now? It's the first thing I ask myself now when people tell me something's wrong with them. You go, I wonder if they have sleep apnea. You ever consider that? Because it's amazing the complications that come out of not sleeping. So.
Sure. And again, I appreciate you highlighting the mental health issues that came along with that. But, do you feel more calmer? Are you less irritable? Do you feel
absolutely?
Yeah. Okay.
All of the above.
Great.
All of the above. Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah. It's and it happened fairly quickly after getting on the machine. But like I said, now you really notice. You really notice it in the morning. It's amazing. If you're not on that, for whatever reason, you kick the mask off in the middle of the night, you roll over and you go, I don't really want to put that thing on, And there's a lot of the times you go, I don't really want to put that thing on. And you don't. And, sometimes you wake up and you go, I need to put the thing on. and then there's nights that you don't, but you just notice the difference. You notice it on a daily basis. I can notice the difference.
Good. Well, you're obviously, quite in a stressful job or accomplished person. So I'm sure that actually increases your clarity and functionability as well.
Absolutely.
Each day, and you notice those differences. I certainly do too.
Yeah, well, no doubt. And, the heart of this is the all day long, wanting to take a nap, driving, needing to take a nap. And now that's absent of my world, Get up in the morning, I go, don't generally nap. Sometimes I do, but, generally don't anymore.
Well, I think, if it gets to the extreme where you actually fall asleep at the wheel, then, that's something that should never happen. And that is quote unquote wake up call.
Yeah, and I do go to the extreme. It should be on the forefront of doctors' minds, and it really should be treated at the primary care level. To me, for most cases, are not that complicated. You can look at them and you can talk to them for a minute and go, you probably have sleep apnea. Why don't you go home and try a machine and see how it does?
Sure.
You'd like to see it get to that point.
Good. Well, I'm happy that you got the treatment that it sounded like you needed all along, and you got there in the end and are doing well on it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Justine, anything to add about what's happening next after a year on from the FDA meeting?
Yes. We have some exciting news that we're going to be rolling out within the next couple of weeks. Some of the panelists here may already know this, but we are having a follow-up to the meeting we had last year. Again, that was basically for the FDA. While there were other types of attendees in the audience, it was for them to, hear the patient journey, be able to understand when, things are presented to them, and recall all of these stories that, Peter, Joelle, Paul, and Celeste had told them about, issues to their diagnosis, with their treatment, dealing with the machine, and all the complications that come with it. So this coming September, September 2019, we are going to have our Awake Together Summit. It's going to be hosted in San Francisco. We are going to offer, again, attendance, in person to those that can make it there, as well as a webcast, which we did last time. And when Joelle specifically was talking about her variety of physicians that she was working with, the nutritionist and even some of the more holistic doctors. We are very into a multidisciplinary approach. So even when she talked about, getting with the allergist. So we are going to be talking about that type of approach to diagnosis and care, that multidisciplinary approach. We're going to be talking about some more information from a pediatric aspect as well. So we're going to be getting that information out in the next couple of weeks. If any of you haven't seen it yet, we have a brand new website. So we kind of went live maybe about 10 days ago, and all of these panelists, most of the panelists that we have here with us today are featured on the website as well, because their stories do showcase what other people in our community are facing. Each one of them represents a different type of person that's out there that's having those struggles. And we're thankful to them that they joined us last year and continue to work with us. I'm happy to hear that, everybody is happy and healthy and sticking with their treatment. And, Celeste for making her public service announcement to don't pack your CPAP machine in your suitcase. Make sure you take it with you, as a carry-on. That is an important thing to know. But yeah, so we're looking forward to this next summit coming up. Awake Together during the month of Sleeptember. The last couple of years, we've run our annual awareness campaign during the month of September called Sleeptember. So we're going to have it September 19th. I don't know if I said the date, but September 19th, 2019. I actually think we're recording this, as you said previously, it's actually, today is the 19th that we're recording it. So we're 3 months out. So we hope that, if you're local to the Bay Area and a patient or caregiver, you're, welcome to join, welcome to register if you're a healthcare provider and so forth. We hope that everyone else can, join us via the web.
Sounds good.
Great. And it just speaks, sorry, I'll come to you in a minute, Joelle. It just speaks to what Joelle echoed earlier on. And, what I had reaffirmed was, everybody out there, most people, when they identify with someone, and actually just to remark on what Paul had said, I don't maybe fit into the image that people have of somebody that's suffering from sleep apnea. So again, it's so valuable to have a patient panel, people sharing their stories that come from many different backgrounds, shapes, sizes, socioeconomic backgrounds, that somebody can identify and share experiences with. So our Awake Facebook page is valuable for that. And also the meetings and things that we host are also great information for people out there that feel that they're not alone. So Joelle, it sounded like you had a comment.
Yes, I do. I just wanted to mention, I think all of us that were on the panel received the print publication of the report from that day, from our time in Washington. And I asked for extras because my doctor's team wanted it. So there are now copies of our publication. I'm taking a proprietary interest here. There's copies of those in my pulmonologist, my ear, nose, and throat, my allergist, and my durable and medical. They all have copies, and they're printed, office copy only, and the doctors were thrilled to get it, because they don't feel they have enough to give the patient. They feel the only thing they've got is the machine information and the mask information, but there's no human link, the kind of service that the American Sleep Apnea Association is providing. So as long as we generate those kind of, that ability to be able to provide materials in some form, I think we're going to get more and more of the doctors and the traditional medical practitioners on board with us, because we'll all work collectively toward solving this.
Great. Good. Yeah, and I think when people do share their stories, I think one of the guys had mentioned it earlier, I think Paul was saying, if you ask different athletes or your friends and, it comes to your forefront by saying, hey, have you ever had a sleep study? Are you sleeping at night? Are you snoring? We're sharing and we're advising people and educating them out there by just merely sharing our own stories. So hopefully that'll we're our own best advocates, and to help people advocate for themselves is very valuable in this current climate. Any other closing remarks from Paul or Peter?
Nope. Nope, I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
Great.
Can't agree with everything I've heard more.
Sorry?
Can't agree with everything I've heard more.
Good. Well, we really appreciate you guys taking your time and sharing your stories so openly and honestly. And again, it's of great benefit to people out there in our communities. And let's keep sharing, advocating, and educating each other. Anything from you, Justine?
No, I just want to thank everyone here, Peter and Joelle and Paul and Celeste, who had to pop off the call. Thank you again for sticking with the American Sleep Apnea Association and continuing to share your stories. I'm happy that all of you are doing well, and hopefully you can join us coming up in San Francisco.
Great.
In September, so I'm excited.
People. Yeah, September 19th is the date.
There you go.
Okay, well, thank you so much, everybody, and good night.
Take care now.